Well, something a bit different this morning. I'm heading to Gloucester, 61 London Road to be precise, and I'm actually going to be on Radio Gloucestershire talking about various farming aspects. I'm not 100% sure what we're covering, but I'm going to try and do a little bit of video in the studio and around about it. I don't know how much filming I can do of that, and then I might cut to the radio interview and you can listen to it. Well, here I am outside Radio Gloucestershire, and I'm going in a minute. I'm supposed to be on at 11. I think it's going to be a bit of chat about the badger colt, so I listened to that on the way up in the car and it seemed like that's what he was talking about. Plus a little bit about my YouTube channel and things like that. So hopefully I'll come across okay. I don't think I can do a lot of filming inside the studio, but like I said before, I'm going to try and put on a bit of the sound afterwards. See, it's a busy road, everyone's going up and down. So there's the studio, BBC Radio Gloucestershire, and I'm heading on in there now. But I've got to go around the back way, which is the tradesman's entrance. It's very glamorous. Here we are then, just outside Radio Gloucestershire back entrance. There's the station car, and I'm in the visitors' car parking, BBC only. So let's go in. Down the little sideway.
Good morning, BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
Hi, it's Rich Cornott for Vernon Harwood.
I won't be a moment for
Cheers.
you.
Right, I'll turn this off. Here we go, I'm in the studio now. And I can see Vernon Harwood through there. I don't know whether you can see me yet. There's the man that I'm seeing later. And here's where I'm going to be sitting. I might get some pictures in there in a minute. Old radio. It's very quiet because it's a Sunday.
We've got to stop meeting like this, you know.
Vernon, mate, how are you?
All right.
Do you want me to come in?
Come on in.
Let's go. Yeah. Lovely.
How are things?
All right, yeah, good. Lovely to come back here. I know.
Degrees today, 68 Fahrenheit. Fine for the first part of the night. A bit of low cloud, hill fog spreading in later. Bit of rain. 11 is 52 Fahrenheit.
Here we are. I'm in the studio with Vernon now. Tell me how long we got to go before on, Vernon.
We've got 31 seconds.
31 seconds.
Yes.
Well, I'll just pan round quickly.
Gizmo here that gives
This
me
is
all the
lovely.
information I need.
All high tech, look. Watching telly while he does it. Sky News as well as BBC. Right, this is my mic. I'm going to turn the camera off now because we're going to...
Clock studio guest is Rich Cornott. Now, Rich, we last had him in on the programme, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago, talking about his book, A Year in the Life of a Dairy Farm. Well, so much has happened to him since, on the radio, in press. He's a sort of a real media farmer now. We'll find out a bit more. He's got lots of exciting plans on the go as well. So Rich joins us in the studio to talk about life for a very unusual dairy farmer after the news at 11 o'clock this morning. Welcome to our weekly date in the countryside, the programme that's all about rural affairs, country matters, wildlife, food and farming. A fine day today, plenty of dry weather, a bit of cloud at times, perhaps a bit later on this afternoon, but warm when you get a sunny spell today at 68 degrees, 20. Tonight, remaining fine during the first part of the night, but a bit of low cloud and hill fog will spread in. We'll get some rain, 11 is 52. Monday's dull and misty and cloudy, a bit of hill fog and rain and drizzle. Definitely not worth writing home about, but drier, brighter conditions will spread in from the northwest later. Hurrah. 20 is 68. And then for Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, should be generally dry, but often cloudy. The temperatures will climb as the week goes on. It will be quite warm in any bright or sunny spell, certainly by Wednesday and on Thursday. What have we got for you then in the final hour of the programme between now and 12 o'clock? Our special guest is someone we've not had in the studio for some years. It was about the time that he released his book about a year in the life of a dairy farm. Rich Cornott with us on the programme. A lot has happened to him in the intervening, 4 or 5 years since we last spoke to him. We'll find out more. right now. Let's say hello, and it's been years, it must be 4 or 5 years since we welcomed Rich Cornock into the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Lovely to be back, Vernon.
Now, the last time we spoke to you was about the time that you released your book, A Year in the Life of a Dairy Farm.
That's right.
Which had a brilliant... Just remind us about that, because it had a brilliant reaction, and I still come across copies now in bookshops all over the place.
Well done, but no one's bought it.
I'm not sure about that.
It did really well, actually. I decided to photograph our farm for a year, just with a little camera I carried with me. And cut a long story short, I approached a publisher, a local publisher, Amberley Publishing, based near Stroud, and they agreed to do a book deal on it. So we produced a book, and I think it sold over 2,000 copies now, which isn't bad for a little kind of small publisher.
Really good going, actually.
Yeah, I was pleased because I didn't know what would happen with it, really, but it's been very popular. And I've had some lovely feedback from people, you know. Some people have actually sent it abroad to places like Japan and Africa and stuff, for people who have, you know, moved out there and they still want a slice of home, if you like. And it's because it's a slice of England as well as about dairy farming. I captured the landscape and everything like that.
Some beautiful photographs. And you didn't have a massively expensive camera either, did you?
80 quid from a supermarket. I didn't know anything about photography. I wouldn't say I do now, but I picked up a little camera and put it in my top pocket because I needed something small. I didn't want to have a big SLR, you know, huge camera. But the pictures worked out really well. And I'm really pleased how it's worked out, you know.
Now, the farm, it's a family-run farm, and it was Dad Bill's farm, wasn't it, in Titherington, right, which is now run by you and your brother.
Dad's still there. He was up this morning at he's 80 now, but at 7:30 he was out just checking to make sure everything's going fine. But yeah, myself and my brother Tom sort of run it together, really. It's probably kind of one of the few small family farms left around now, because a lot of farms have got big scale. We're still very traditional, you know, we still make a few small bales and things like that. But it's a nice place to be, and I'm really lucky that my kids can come on the farm now and experience that, really.
Because the book was originally not for publication, it was for your dad, wasn't
it? That's right, it was. A lot of things in life, I think, are luck, and I was very lucky. I did this book as a Christmas present for my parents, and gave it to them, and a few people actually said to me, oh, you ought to get that published, but not knowing anything about publishing, I just dismissed it. And then by luck, I was just reading in the local paper that a lady had had a book published by Amberley Publishing, and I just approached them, one email, and got me a book deal. In fact, I remember very clearly you said to me, you're an accidental author. That's when I came up here 4 years ago, and I thought, you're spot on there.
There we go, you see. That should be your blog address, shouldn't it? The Accidental Author.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of writing since then. What has happened off the back of the book then? Because you've been everywhere,
I've
haven't
been
you?
very, very lucky, I think, actually, Vernon. And some of the luck's come from radio, actually, because I don't know if you listeners know Ben Prater, who's now on Breakfast Show on Radio Wiltshire. I did an interview with Ben about the book, and at the very last moment, I just chucked in the line. I said, you ought to come down the farm and have a little look round. And he actually messaged me afterwards and said, you know, did you mean that? And I said, yeah, come down, you know, and we had a chat. So he came down one day with a mic, like you guys go out with your little local radio mic, and we had a chat, and it went quite well. And I said, well, you know, nice to see you, you know, thinking that would be the end of it. And he goes, how do you fancy making that into a little feature? So for 2 years, we rolled it out, and we did, it was called, shall I do the little, Ben Prater, get off my land!
My land!
That was our little catchphrase.
And you became from the accidental author to the broadcasting farmer.
Well, I had a go, yeah, and I really loved it. I can't tell you how much I loved it. We used to go out, you came down the farm, and we did some interviewing about what we're doing on the farm, but at the time I thought, well, we can roll this out a little bit further, and I'm very interested in seeing how things are done. So what we did, we went to local butchers and we made our own sausages, and we got the Radio Bristol listeners to actually come up with a type of sausage, and the winning one was the Bristol Blue sausage, because it's blue, Bristol Blue, and we made it out of pork and blueberries. And it was lovely.
Did you bring some with you?
I've eaten them all now, so there's none left.
That's a limp excuse, that is, if ever I've heard one.
But it was almost like county file. If you said a country file, it was county file. And we made some honey. I made our own cheese. The cheese was awful, Vernon. It was terrible. I made it from our own cow's milk.
Wow.
And I wanted to try it, so I did all the things. But at the end of the day, something went wrong in the process. And when we unwrapped it, it was... Well, Ben wouldn't touch it. I was the guinea pig. I ate it, and it was terrible. But at least we had a go, and that's what it was about. And it was quite humorous.
In fact, those reports, I think, are on the internet, aren't they? I think they're on YouTube.
YouTube, a couple of them, yeah. And it was a shame, actually, because Ben then went off to Radio Wiltshire to do the breakfast show, and so that was the end of my kind of time doing the radio on Radio Bristol. I would have liked to have carried on in some form, but there wasn't an option there to do that. So then I sort of went on to a few other bits and pieces.
Well, I've got in front the latest column from the British Farmer and Grower magazine, Cornock's Corner, farmer who takes a trip back to college.
Well, yeah.
And you've got your own website, and how long have you been doing that, Colin?
Oh, 2 or 3 years now. Yes, there's another, again, a lot of things, like I said, in luck. The NFU magazine, British Farmer and Grower, which goes out to, I think, 50,000 NFU members, National Farmers Union members around the country, they did a review on the book, and the then editor, Ben Pike, phoned me up and said, ooh, do you fancy doing a column for the magazine?
We'll have some of that, yeah.
And I actually tried talking him out a bit. I said, well, I don't think I can do it, because I don't class myself as a writer, and just a bloke has a go. And he said to me, well, we quite like your writing style. Well, I didn't know how to writing style, Vernon. It was like, have I got a writing style? So,
apparently you have.
So then since then I've been doing a column every not every month, but every sort of now and then, and I like to do a little bit of banter. Really, it's not a serious piece. You can read it. It's a bit. I did one this month about going back to Hartbury College, because I went to Hartbury nearly 30 years ago, and I went back there for the open day, and it was a lovely trip back memory lane sort of thing.
Yes and no, because like farming, you make the point in the article, has changed. The college has changed.
Massively.
They've become far more professional, haven't they?
Amazing. I it's funny in life, I think you don't notice the subtle changes in life, until you've had a gap of, say, 20-odd years since I last went there. And then I could see the massive change, the amount of development that's gone on at Hartbury. And not just Hartbury, the colleges around the country, agricultural colleges and normal colleges, universities everywhere. They've expanded, and things are a lot better, a lot easier to use. The machinery is a lot more user-friendly. The facilities are a lot better, and I couldn't help but be impressed. The sports facilities there, the equine, the farming. The massive dairy unit they've got with all under one roof. When I was there was still a little tiny breast parlour with Jersey cattle actually being milked, and then they changed it to goats, and they went from there. And I'm sure you've seen that in radio and everything.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Everything changes. I went to the launch, was it earlier this year or last year, of the Innovation Centre at the Royal Agricultural College at Harnhill. An amazing facility.
Yeah.
And even people who were there 10 years ago would not recognise. And it really is a preparation for the real world, the modern world of agriculture, because it is a high-tech 21st century industry. If you think it's about farmers leaning on 5-bar gates, chewing a piece of straw, you are sadly mistaken. Yeah. Well, we'll talk a bit more about the life of Rich Cornock and what's happening to him and what's just around the corner, including his venture into the world of greetings cards. What's that all about? We'll find out more right here on the programme very soon. But, that's him. 11:25 is the time right now. Rich Cornock's our guest in the studio today. And we've already had an email from Shirley to say, what was the name of that book?
Ooh. It's called A Year on a Dairy Farm by Richard Cornock. And it is out there. It's on my website, which is www.richardcornock.co.uk. Or you can
we're
find
not here to plug it,
you can always find it on other certain online sellers.
Surely, just regard that as a public service announcement. Now, tell me about greetings cards. What's this all about?
After the pictures were well received, I thought I'd have a go. Well, actually, again, one thing leads to another. I do quite a few talks to different groups like WIs and things, and I was at one talk, and the lady said to me, why don't you produce a calendar? And I thought about it, to sell at meetings and things.
What are you like with your top off?
I'm not in the Pirelli Calendar League. But you've lost me. I've thrown me there, Vernon. I'm just thinking Pirelli calendars. So actually I thought, a calendar's a good idea, but the trouble is, come January the 1st, if I haven't sold it, no one wants a calendar.
It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I thought I'd do is have a go at producing my own greetings cards with some of the pictures from the book. And so I started doing that last year, and they've done really well. It's quite surprising how popular they've been. I've got them in a few local shops. I sell them at talks. I sell them on my website. And I'm hoping to try and get them into Gloucester service station, the new service station, because I've been there. I heard you talking about farmers' markets earlier. It's very much, you go in there, and it's got a little bit of a feeling of a farmer's market or a farm shop. So I'm hoping to try and get them in there, but I'm struggling to get hold of the right person at the moment.
With all this going on, YouTube channels and books and greetings cards and goodness knows what else, do you actually do any farming?
I do.
Do you?
I do.
Are you sure?
Say that, Vernon. 6:15 this morning, I was milking the cows.
Oh, yeah.
I finished at 9, jumped in the shower, so I don't smell of cow muck, and popped in the car, came up to see you, and I'm off back this afternoon to do the milking. So I'm full on, hands on, every day doing something. But I like to do a few extra things because otherwise you're very in a rut if you're not careful.
Do you, obviously you still enjoy farming because that's what the family business is all about and it's in your heart, but if an interesting offer came along, for instance, if there was Son of Countryfile and therefore we needed a new Adam Henson,
I think he's thrown it up.
Would you be tempted?
I would certainly. I mean, like I said, I did enjoy doing the radio feature on Radio Bristol, and if an opportunity comes along, I always think it's good to have a look at it. I mean, like I said, with the writing for the magazine, they actually asked me if I'd do it. And I actually thought, I don't know if I can do this. And now it's something I actually really enjoy. I sit down and when I write it, it does take me a while to think what I'm going to write. I don't just knock it out. But it's nice to have opportunities. And if you get an opportunity, it's better to take it and try it than think, I don't know, never do it, I think. And that applies to everything in life, really.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. So what's around the corner for you, then? Well, is there another book?
I don't know about another book, Vernon. I don't think I could follow up for You on a Dairy Farm because it was so well received and I was so pleased at how it went. I don't know whether I could top that. But as you mentioned a little bit earlier, I've got my own YouTube channel now, which I've been focusing on for about 18 months. And if any of you are on YouTube and go and look at The Funky Farmer, which is my YouTube tag, I've got over 400 videos on there. And believe it or not, I get over 5,000 views a day on my videos. And that's on a bad day.
And that's with your shirt on.
That's with my shirt on. I'm on there chatting. My Ice Bucket Challenge is on there. I put that on there this week.
Oh, you didn't, did you?
I did. And my brother did one, which was pretty amazing. He stood under a loader bucket of water from a tractor.
Did you see the lady farmer in the news this week who decided to do the Ice Bucket Challenge and she stood in the yard and her brother, rather than... she was going to be hosed, but rather than connect the hose to water, he connected it to manure.
What's very funny is I actually watched that video this morning.
Utterly covered.
It's unbelievable. She gets blown off her feet by the slurry from the tanker. Lucky we didn't do that.
No.
But it was an amazing video. I mean,
you don't want to be watching that at breakfast time, do you?
This is the amazing thing now about technology, and we're talking about how things have changed at colleges and stuff, is that everything's accessible for people like me now to do things like almost like broadcasting on the internet, because I'm using a small video camera on the farm, and what I do is I film little jobs I'm doing, like I changed the radiator on a Massey Ferguson 265 a couple of months ago, and I filmed that in different processes.
Surely nobody wants to watch that, Rich.
Well, it's surprising how many... If I put a video on YouTube, I could say that I'd probably get 1,000 views within probably 2 or 3 days, because I've now got over 5,000 subscribers to the channel.
It does prove, doesn't it, what a remarkable resource it is.
But it's worldwide. And one of the most interesting and enjoyable features of it is I get contacted by different people from around the world. Only a couple of weeks ago, a farmer from Ohio in America was contacting me to talk about his farming versus mine. And I find that very interesting. And it does make my day job more interesting, if you like, because, farming can be quite solitary.
It can be solitary. It's quite tough going. We hear quite a lot, particularly in the dairy sector, about how tough it is. And what's your experience at the moment about how things are going?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think you messaged me on Thursday saying, would you come on the radio and we're going to chat about things that are current. And below me on Friday night, I got a message from our milk buyer saying they're dropping the milk price by 1.75p a litre, down to 28 point something p a litre. And that's a massive drop in price for us. And it's gone from, it was around the 34p mark earlier in the year, and it's gone right down. And it's a bitter blow.
Of course, your buyer will not be the only one who's dropped price, because that's happening across the board.
That's right. And I emailed the chap actually, and I just put one line. I said, ridiculous and unsustainable milk price, because it is, really. If you're on a line contract to certain supermarkets, you won't get affected by that, because some of the better supermarkets offer a contract that's based on costs, and they won't just you won't be affected by world markets. But he came back to me with a reply that there is a glutton of milk in Europe, and also and you don't think about
Russia
this.
Russia is the problem, isn't it? Because it's now refusing to accept any imports from the West, which means that a lot of milk which we would send to Russia, well, it's not going anywhere.
Well, exactly. I mean, the thing is, what's surprising maybe to the public is when they watch on the news about the conflict in Ukraine, that is directly impacting my milk price now because of the glut of milk, because it can't go to Russia. So there's too much milk for the buyers. So the price drops. But what's interesting, I think, and frustrating to me...
I mean, I know it's frustrating for you, but why would a buyer have an inflated price that isn't realistic?
Well, I'm going to come to this, because this is what is interesting. My buyer, I'm not going to name who they are, but, it's local, let's say. they supply a lot of fresh milk to the doorstep, okay? And they've got a doorstep delivery. Now, my milk price has probably gone down from 34p to, say, 28 point something. Now, in 6 months. Now, is that doorstep delivery price going to come back down by that, I wonder? I very much doubt it. So at some point, somewhere there, that money has gone to someone else, because I don't expect they've dropped the price that they're selling it for. So, you know, you've got to be a bit cynical as a farmer. What's happening to this extra money? Okay, certain things are world markets, but the thing is, doorstep delivery, fresh milk in the UK isn't going to come from Poland, or it's not acceptable to at the moment. So, you know, how can they say that the world market in Ukraine is affecting that? Tell me that, Vernon, what do you think?
But in terms of commodities, and it doesn't matter whether it's milk or grain or any of the other commodities in agriculture, they are affected by what's happening right around the globe.
Certainly milk, like for cheese, because you can import cheese if it's cheaper, but no one's going to buy... I don't think any of the British public are going to stand for picking up a litre of milk in the supermarket and going, oh, that's come from Hungary. How would you feel about your fresh milk?
Well, it depends. I think people will buy on the price, won't they?
Well, the thing is...
Who thought 30 years ago that most of our coal would be imported?
That's true, but no one feels that, do they? No one. When you turn your lights on, you don't think, oh, that's Polish coal. But if you're picking up that bottle of milk in the supermarket, is there a certain amount of emotion connected to that when you see the British label on it? I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what your listeners say, really. Would they be happy?
Suddenly this has turned into an edition of Panorama.
It is, isn't it? I didn't come on here to talk about it. I'm quite happy, though, to chat about it. I am interested to hear what the public say,
it is a very live issue as well.
It is.
But how interesting that we saw the price go up, the farmgate price for milk go up, and then it's come down again. But how long before it will go back up again for you?
Well, good question. I mean, but the thing is, we're back to a price that is probably nearly 10 years ago, the same price. So, I mean, and the problem I've got is, okay, if we want to try and expand or improve the farm, we're going to take up some money, borrow it from the bank. The bank manager goes, okay, here's X amount. Say ballpark figure, say £200,000, which wouldn't go that far on a farm. You borrow that at a certain interest rate. Now, I've got to repay that money, and we're doing the calculations on, say, the milk price of 6 months ago. And then suddenly I get a massive drop of say 10%. I've still got to pay that interest off or that loan off. And it makes farming very difficult when you're, you know, in that sort of loop of price rise, price drop, price rise. What do you do?
And when you put it like that, you can understand why a lot of sons and daughters aren't following their parents into the dairy industry. Yeah. It's always fascinating, and we've covered an awful lot, haven't we, in the last half an hour. Let's see you again soon. Let's not leave it 4 or 5 years.
It's great, Vernon. I love coming up to see you, mate.
Well, we'll get the diary out and we'll get you in more.
Get you down on the farm. I think it's more.
Absolutely.
Ben down. I think you need to come in.
Get me wellies on.
I have to say to your listeners, actually, you're looking very smart. He's got a lovely striped shirt on. I don't know whether Vernon could actually hack getting dirty wellies.
Actually, these are my pyjamas. Did you know that? Nice to see you, Rich. Thanks very much indeed. Rich Cornick there from Titherington. He's the dairy farmer, and that book again for Shirley and others is called A Year in the Life of a Dairy Farm. 11:35. Oh, sorry?
A year on a dairy farm.
A year on a dairy farm. All right. I don't know where I got the life bit from.
I haven't lived all my life yet.
Exactly. Yeah, me neither. 11:35 is the time right now.